All right, we have the management of Blue Dart with us now. Mr. Balfour Manuel is joining us, the Managing Director. Thanks so much, Mr. Manuel. We wanted to understand the extent of the impact on operations, not just here, but also globally, to get a sense of really, what's going on and how severe the situation is on ground. How are you coping?
So good morning, Abba. As you know, we are, let me start with India. We are operating our lifeline in a lockdown situation. But all I can tell you is that, Blue Dart is keeping its fleet flying, 6 Boeing 757s flying every night. With the lockdown impacts, we have obviously many communities locked down. So we have to operate in close alliance with the local authorities. Globally, I would say the business is functional in countries like US and Europe. In India, we are dealing primarily with the essential commodities, namely the pharmaceutical industry, the personal protection equipment, carriage of ventilators and pharma supplies.
All right. What about the pile-up of inventory at ports, warehouses? Give us an insight into the situation there.
So I can talk about what we are currently doing. We have a two-pronged approach. One is, of course, carrying the essential commodities only on our network. And it is a requirement as we go on to keep the list of essential need to increase regularly. That is my take. So that we can be more relevant in the supply chain. Currently, we work with a cross-section of industry. So just to give you an example, a simple packaging material for a ventilator is also an essential. So as we go on, while we carry the essential commodities, this list has to keep increasing so that the supply chain can work effectively. That would be currently, Abba, we are working with governments, state governments, municipalities, hospitals, research bodies, supplying them fully. Our supply chain is dedicated by air fully to this currently.
Okay, fair enough. What's the likely impact going to be, on profitability? The reason I ask is I know it's probably not the first order of priority right now as you're looking to just get essential supplies door to door, but the impact on business, even globally, how much of an impact do you foresee?
Well, Abba, we are a listed company, and we are going through a silent period, so I won't be able to give you accurate details on that. As I told you, we are focusing primarily all our capacities on essential commodities only right now.
Okay, so let's not get into numbers, Mr. Manuel, but to understand perhaps where the pressure points would be, as a business, as we of course head into earnings outlook, so on and so forth. What's the strategy, overall strategy?
So, Abba, it's like this. We have a two-pronged strategy. One is to answer your previous question. Our warehouses and our pipeline has a huge lineup, millions of packages that need to get onto the street. Essential, non-essential, essentials are moving. So what I mentioned earlier, there could be computers, auto parts, so on and so forth in the system. So as the lockdown eases, our major concern and challenge would be to operate both the lines simultaneously, namely making sure what is in the pipeline goes out to the mainstream, and the other is keeping the exigencies going, what we are doing parallelly. So that is a two-pronged strategy, and that makes us, our task force work 24/7 every single day. So that's how much I can tell you.
So that's just it. Yeah, that's just it, Mr. Manuel, because, you sound like you're working around the clock, and that's really appreciated, the fact that, the company is doing what it can to get essentials to people, especially essential medical supplies, which are critical at the moment. It sounds like whenever we do come out of this, you'll actually have even more demand to get get what's actually piled up, and on the non-essential front, to customers as well. In light of that, then, does one still anticipate things like job losses or pressure on manpower, or would it actually be the converse?
So, Abba, yes, your concerns are very much live. There could be a hockey stick kind of revival, or going by what we hear, stage by stage recovery of the phases in which we will remove the lockdowns. We might have a slower recovery because the manpower across, in our case, what we have done is we have reserves and we have rostered. We are not really tiring ourselves out with, where required force is not to be used. So we have a rostered kind of an approach for ground, and our executives are doubling up on certain roles on the ground because we have to keep the fleet operational every night. Ministries and our pharma customers and the research agencies want them going. So that's something that we are fighting and keeping on. But yes, manpower moving out for an industry to get them back. They mean to have their incomes in place. That will take a little time. So from that perspective, it might be a slower growth. But I believe that there are people waiting to supply to restore supplies to the country. For us, we are also preparing for a hockey stick kind of, a demand coming up where everybody says, we want to reach these commodities. So we are preparing for that, our fleets and manpower for that, Abba.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us and for talking us through that. Appreciate you taking time out, given all that you're dealing with right now. Thank you, Mr. Manuel. All right. On that note, I think we're going to take another very quick break. We've got lots of more coming up for you. We'll also be speaking to Bajaj Alliance General as well on how insurers are coping at a time like this. So that's coming up next. Do stay tuned.